Now, the reason why I wanted Gabe to stick on this call is, and so Gabe runs King's Tide, which is Gabe. Are you on? Are you back on Discord? I know you were checking out and working with some different platforms. Are you running King's Tide out of Discord?
We do have a Discord server just for the general support of the ministry right now. But we are experimenting with platforms still. We're also
Okay,
experimenting with ad sets as well. So we're in that
cool.
stage of the process right now.
Yeah. So to set the stage here, and Josh, we can talk about research. We cannot talk about the research project. I'm game towards that. But
Look,
I
whatever.
just I'm looking at Gabe on here, and I'm like, dude, this is like one of our guys when it comes towards really understanding asynchronous community digitally. What Josh is he works with an organization. You know what, Josh, you set it up. Power to change what you're doing digitally, like you asynchronous, like talk how we met. Like I'm gonna shut up. You do the job.
So I work with an organization called Power to Change Australia, which is part of Campus Crusade for Christ International. I specifically work in the digital ministry area of the organization, and we're developing a digital pathway from pre-evangelism all the way through to discipleship and sending people out to share the gospel. One of the ways that we're doing that at the moment is trying to develop a Discord community where people can ask questions safely about faith, whether they are in that pre-evangelism phase or whether they're in the they have a relationship with God and they're trying to figure out what that means in life, trying to find some accountability or whatever they need to grow in their faith or figure out how to share their faith with other people. So we're doing content creation to bring people into that community, and we're in the process of developing the community into this flourishing space at the moment. So I think that's pretty good
Yeah.
setup of what we're doing. We're trying to get it to that point where it's self-sustaining, where we're not the ones that driving conversation in the community or driving ideation, I guess, in the content creation space, but people are being like, hey, have you thought about this video? Have you thought about this question or whatever? So that's kind of where we want to get to, I would say.
You know what's interesting is all of us are really running the same. All three of us are running the same model, just in maybe different contexts. You know, Josh, what you're working on is creating a connection level, and really the connection job is
Yeah,
easier. But now you're not just connecting with people; you want to build relationships with people digitally,
yeah,
establish trust, build relationships, go through evangelism, and all that, but even looking at doing discipleship at that in that digital community space, and getting that down to the place of where you're equipping them to share the gospel, and then
for sure.
encouraging them, mobilizing them to take somebody else through the same process. That is was interesting. I was sitting down in Seoul, Korea. Carl, how do you pronounce Carl's last name? Udi?
Yeah, Udi.
Udi, Carl Udi, who's with I don't is he? I'm assuming it's Crew or Indigenous.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
in
this
New Zealand.
yeah in New Zealand, the super tall guy, Carl. Once again, probably it's maybe 6'4". He's not this guy, but he's somewhere up there.
I look up to him.
We all look up to Carl at some point. You know, he comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, I hear you're really good at digital community." And I was like, I mean, yeah, we do a lot of work in that space. And he's like, come with me. And so he drags me over. We leave the convention center. He walks me the long way along this go up to this hotel. And there's this breakout session talking about digital community. And he sits me down. And actually, I'm at Josh's, table. And
Yeah,
so he's
that's when
like,
we met.
Jeff, Josh. That was the first connection. And, I'm listening to Josh talk about the stuff that he's doing. And I'm like, that sounds really good. And we're starting to swap stories back and forth. And it's like, man, we're running the same playbook. But it's the opportunity. And really, this is, some of the stuff that Gabe's really understanding is how to build on that digital community on that asynchronous space. Once you get the top of funnel, getting that connection, we talk about it being a mid-funnel problem, where you're really good at connecting with people digitally. You got millions of followers, but whatever you're actually challenging people to do, it's 0.1%, 0.02%, like it's a fraction of people that are actually converting. But to be able to use digital community to shorten that is far more effective. What are you, Gabe? Let me just ask: as you're hearing that, like, how are you recognizing overcoming some of those challenges of the mid funnel problem of being able to connect and build that relationship through King's Tide?
Yeah, I'll give you actually a quick example that comes to mind. I think it was Christmas, maybe 2 years ago. We did a live stream, and it went to the Discord as well. And I think somebody mentioned Santa Claus at one point. And we had people from all over the world, lots of different cultures, different countries, and this fierce debate broke out about Santa Claus. And we had maybe 500 messages an hour for like 6 hours straight that somebody had to just be watching because it was just a debate. So one of the things that we learned was just the importance of one, making that individual connection with everybody when they come into the community, and two, making sure that moderation is in place and is healthy. We didn't even know what asynchronous community was when we started. And as we came to learn more about that and more about the term, that helped us define kind of the structure of the ministry in the terms of Discord.
Yeah,
and it's
moderation.
great to meet you, Josh.
Moderation is such a weird thing to look at and think about in a digital community space, because you realistically don't want any at the start, because you kind of want to see what the community is and how it feels and what they want to talk about. And it's like moderation is really just setting culture, because as soon as you set the culture, moderation shouldn't be a thing that you have to do. You shouldn't have to delete messages very often, or be like, that's a bad word, you probably shouldn't use that, or that's a bad topic, you shouldn't be talking about that. And like in our space, we don't really want to have any topics that are off limits, just ways of talking to one another that's off limit.
Yeah.
Because we're all people, and we have to deal with tons of different issues, and we need to deal with all the issues, not just this subset that we're allowed to talk about.
Yeah, that's great.
There's this, it's funny. I hate saying no, because no's a limiter. No stops the conversation. No shuts down the opportunity. No prevents any forward action. And so it's right when you're creating that culture, like it's never about no. It's more about observing and listening. In digital community, we talk about this all the time. It's better to ask questions than make statements. The Church.digital, as a matter of fact, we talked about this within the cohort, EDM, Equipping Digital Missionaries cohort last week, I think, where the Church.digital actually, like, the reason we're a digital missionary sending agency today is because of people like Nicole Howard, because of people like Stacy Knapp, who was not on this podcast, and some of the other whitebeards, some of the people that are digital missionaries but are not church planters. Like the Church.digital 6 months ago was much more aimed at planting digital churches, but we found our audience not interested in planting digital churches. Well, the majority of them not interested in planting digital churches as much as understanding how to be the light of Christ digital, how to be a missionary in digital space. And so we did the hard thing. We had to pivot the organization to change, to adapt to what the audience was. It was very easy to say, no, we are not going to actually, it was so funny. I really wish Stacy was able to be on this. I called it the Stacy Knapp paradox, because we could not for years. Stacy hung out with us for 2.5 years in the community, and I kept figuring, she was engaging with us, but I was like, you don't fit yet. You don't fit yet. You don't fit yet. And it's not Stacy's problem. It was our problem trying to figure out how to adapt to Stacy. And it was fascinating, at least in this example. Once we figured out how to adapt to Stacy, it was almost like it was the Tetris game where all the bricks came together, and all of a sudden the community gelled. People were doing it, and Stacy's an awesome person, but it wasn't about Stacy. It was about recognizing that there were, on the lurker side, there were dozens of others kind of hanging around, and then we went out to Lausanne and we started meeting dozens of others that are doing that around the globe, and all of a sudden, it's this. We found the right culture because we were slow to say no, and instead it was, well, how can we make this work? And I don't know, have either of you guys ever experienced something like that, maybe within your current ministries or outside of that, where you really tried, you found yourself having to adapt to meet the need instead of trying to force your way into the situation?
I think at the start of 2020, in our team, we were trying to develop a video game for ministry. So we wanted to share the gospel through a video game. That's what we started doing at the beginning of 2020. We ended up stopping that project pretty quickly because of the thing that everybody knows about that happened in 2020. To help the rest of the organization move all of this in-person ministry to a more online space. Particularly, we had a national conference for all the student ministry coming up that year, which was going to be in person, but then suddenly had to be in this digital space. So we shifted our resources into developing a way to do that well and have it still be a good, fulfilling event, even though nobody could really meet in person. I guess that's the best example I can think of now off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us pivoted in COVID, right? It's, hey, we're going to do this. Now there's a different opportunity. There's a different, opportunity is really the right word to do something for impact. Gabe, anything kind of relate for you on that?
Yeah, I guess I mentioned earlier, we had 3 servers at one time, and I'd say some people that came to one server were different than others that came to another server. So we kind of had to look at our process and look at just the ways that we could be inclusive to people and still do ministry well, but also have like standard guidelines as well. So we weren't just kind of fishing in the dark. But yeah, the thing I'll end with, and I'm going to hop off here in a minute, I'm almost out of time, is, can the church exist digitally? And I'd say 100%. I see, people get saved every weekend through digital ministry and through marketing. I see trends and spiritual growth. There are lots of challenges when it comes to that as well. And, through Kingstide, I see genuine friendships and connections flourish online. But it's been great to be with you today.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for coming around. Appreciate it. Just go ahead and hang up. I'll figure it out on my side. But appreciate you coming on and being with us today.
Good to meet
all
you,
right?
Gabe.
Yeah.
Good to meet you.
Awesome. Yeah. So good, man. I'm going to be really weird right now. Josh, how old are you?
Do you want to guess, or do you want me to just say it?
I'm early 30s, I'm guessing.
It is early 30s, 33.
33. Okay. Yeah, I mean, kid's 24. Like he's
Good.
when 21, man, he was launching this stuff, and I'm really encouraged, kind of looking at some of the stuff he's doing, thinking outside of the box on this. So, hey, what do you want to do? I'll throw it at you. You want to talk Lausanne for a couple minutes? You want to talk research? You want to talk async? Like I've been flapping for 10 hours. You tell me what's helpful right now.
Well, I mean, we can talk about any of those things. I reckon let's go into some Lausanne stuff, because I was having a bunch of Lausanne thoughts while we were having that conversation with Gabe.
Yeah.
And then, we could probably do a bit of the research project as well. That's probably a good idea to talk about on here.
Yeah. So what do you think in Lausanne?
Like with what we were talking about, there was, I can't remember who said this particular idea, but belonging before believing was one of those key
Yes.
things that was brought up. And like in the digital community space, it's so easy to traverse a relationship in that way, like create a sense of belonging before someone wants to have a conversation about um, Christianity, like, or Jesus or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and you kind of have to do that in a digital space because people can just check out and leave so quickly if they don't want to talk about it. So you need that relationship so much more. Like a community is so much more necessary in a digital space to have that person be willing to listen and be willing to have a question asked of them. I think so. I think it's so much more necessary in a digital space.
Yeah, that was probably Flat Cap. He talks about belonging and believing. Andy talks
Mm,
about belonging and believing. People belong before they believe. I say people find community before they find Christ digitally. We can
yeah,
never agree on everything, but that's a reality digitally, is that people will connect with an idea, and that's more of where asynchronous community, where it establishes trust and it builds relationship so well. It's and that's where we've got a lot of these organizations that are creating really connection. Maybe it's a paid ad sharing Jesus, or pulling heartstrings, or getting to ask spiritual questions, and then it drives kind of the global model for evangelism. It drives that immediately down into like a one-on-one conversation, or a Zoom call, or
yeah,
something face to face, and some people will connect with that. But for many, that's very off-putting, because it's very, I don't know that I trust this person. I don't know that
yeah,
I will believe this person. And that person oftentimes is wanting to dig into spiritual questions, and really dig into stuff, and it doesn't necessarily connect immediately. It's interesting. That was
yeah,
here in America. We do a lot of the He Gets Us is a $500 million organization that does these paid ads, and that's it's driven
nice
to
bunch.
evoke emotions, and then get people to connect to a website, which leads into some sort of a follow up. And
Mm,
it was interesting. U.S. based churches were the ones that were really doing a lot of the follow up, and the people that were connecting via text on that, like the average person that was following up with He Gets Us was telling these people, hey, come to the church building Sunday morning. Here's our church, come in. And the He Gets Us platform is really good at connecting, following up people with the people in the geographical region where it was reasonable to connect up.
yeah,
But the conversion rate, where people were coming into the building, was very low, and the
mm.
connection rate of people that were having multiple conversations, past the initial conversation, was very low as well. And
Yeah. I mean
so there,
that makes sense
yeah,
because
it's
that's the whole trust. That's the whole trust thing, right? Like,
yeah,
even though I would say in at least the last 5 years, people have gotten this weird higher sense of trust. Like with Uber, like you're literally calling a stranger to your house to pick you up and drive you somewhere. Like
yeah,
that's just kind of insane, really. But like we're in this new stage of trust development in the world. It's particularly in digitally, where it's like I don't know what to trust anymore. And when you're like getting on this random site that's answering a question or an issue that you're having, and they're like, "Come to this place because we want to talk to you in person." I was like, I might not do that. I'm happy to keep talking to you though, but I don't want to go to a place yet. So it's like just sit with them in the space where they're at. But at the
yeah,
same time, with particularly for an organization like that, where they're talking to hundreds of thousands of people, I imagine. It's like, how do you maintain one-on-one conversations with that many people, with, I'm assuming, the limited size team that they actually have doing that, where like it would be so much easier to have a community where you're having everyone communicating together, because the conversations are going to be pretty similar, and certainly the stuff that's being talked about is going to be similar. It's like, I guess you could compare it to different types of support groups in a manner, in one way, where people come together because they share a common issue or common problem, and they want to try and work through it together, and they want to support each other in it. I don't know where I was going with that.
That's all right. It's it's active listening. It's asking questions. It's Dr. John was on here earlier, the Sharing Jesus Online. We really spend a lot of time, talk in the book talking about active listening and doing that digitally, where it's much better to ask questions and make statements. Questions, people keep talking. Questions, you're building trust as with the person because you're listening to them. Statements, periods, shut down the conversation. You're making a statement. Sometimes it's a soapbox, and people are done. Questions, they're still engaging and listening towards that, and so it's really starting to understand some of those principles in digital space and in digital community and leaning that way. And as part of the reason we want to do this research project, partnering with Lausanne and a lot of the global missional organizations around the planet, is to really establish this opportunity of digital community and start to celebrate and create a list of best practices on how to utilize digital community towards evangelism, towards discipleship, and some of those principles. You want to maybe just, we've got to wrap in a minute. I'm literally, I've got like 3 people in the green room coming up. But you maybe want to share a little bit about the research project, which you're excited about as we're working on that.
So yeah, I'm excited about the project because it's approaching that whole issue you were just sharing about, but particularly like I think the question that Gabe asked or answered before: can the church exist digitally? Can missions be digital? Well, like the research project is to get hard data showing that it's possible. That here's some ways that we can literally do it. Some ways that people are seeing growth in their relationship with God, seeing growth in relationships with others, seeing how people can come to know Jesus as well through a digital medium. Like one of the questions I want to ask is like around it is how big do you think God is to not be able to use a digital space? So like I'm excited to see how this project can create a new way of thinking for so many different churches in the world. Like I was listening to you, and I can't remember who you were talking to, but how 90% of churches or whatever is hybrid. Well, they're not really hybrid. They're just recording their service and sticking it up online, realistically. But that's
so good.
Yeah.
For me, the goal is to create a new model. It's not the model. It's not the only model, but to create a new model. It's just an option to reach somebody different than what we're already doing, because we have to do something different to reach someone different. It's with this research project. I'm North America. You're Oceania, Australia. We're working with people in Asia. Several people in Asia already. We're bringing on people in Europe, and my research assistant that I think, at least with the Church.digital, is jumping into this project with us, is from India. And so it's like, oh my gosh, the different perspectives, and the fact that all of this is aligning, and all, like I don't have to convince on doing it this way across the board. Everybody has vision. Everybody's excited about this. Everybody's coming to the table realizing community is this incredible opportunity. We've all experienced this for digital evangelism with discipleship. We just need hard facts to be able
Yeah.
to show on paper what this is, and to get it out there. And so, man, this is so good. I hate to talk and run. I got to talk and run. I want to ask you the same two questions that Gabe answered on his way out the door. Number one, asking this of everybody. Number one, can digital missions, can missions exist digitally?
Oh, 100%. Like, I'm literally doing that. Like, that's my full-time job to do digital missions.
Beautiful. Can the church exist in digital space?
Why not? Like I said before, it's like, how big is God? Can God do anything? Well, yes. So can the church exist in digital? Yes. Why not?
Yeah, so good. The common answer is it already is. And people look at me like that's a stupid question, but you'd be amazed. It's not that stupid. Well, at least a lot of people are asking that question, and it's worth
yeah,
stating clearly.
People in the church are in the digital space. So, like, the church is there, but is it?
Awesome. Well, I tell you what, this is so good, man. We need to catch up. We need to talk more when I'm not under the gun. I sent you an email like
sure.
at 1 o'clock my time last night. I want to get you and Anesh together. Anesh is helping me on the research side. He put together a proposal. Let's kind of nitpick through some stuff once I get past the stream, which ends in a couple hours. Yay! But we'll
hope the rest of the stream goes well.
Awesome. Yeah, I've got the coffee jitters at this point because I've had too much coffee in the hand. But hey, so I'm going to let you go. But Josh, thanks for hanging out with us, and looking forward to catching up again soon. Bye, man.